Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY, Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor. Click on what appears to be that little bell notification. Also, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And like I always say, if you want to be one of the first people notified of when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and click on what appears to be that little bell notification right below this video, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to Carla Shepherd, what's good? I just wanted to touch on a few things, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we hear a lot of talk about the prosecution. Basically, they're going to be probably resting their case in and around Monday, if you will, right? When we first began to hear about the rumblings of there being an investigation involving the situation with the civil lawsuit that Cassie filed that was settled in less than 24 hours, or maybe the 24 hours after the lawsuit was filed, right? Diddy had settled the lawsuit. We heard about a number, a figure, 30 million. We found out in court when Cassie testified that it was 20 million. Cassie received $20 million, right? SLLE 44, Isaiah Hunt, PR Black, Just Blaze, Rodney, Roosevelt B, Calvin, Carla Shepherd, always a pleasure, iMac Music. So as we began this journey, and I just want to talk about the sensationalism of the media for a minute. Another thing that I gained knowledge on was the fact that in the when they submitted evidence to the grand jury, right? I'm gonna get into a little bit of that also, and how that came about, how they got the warrants to be able to go and search Diddy's house and things of that nature, right? Because when you think about it, there was really no kind of evidence that they really had that warranted that they should search Diddy's house. You know, you can make up something like you could say sex trafficking, you could say coercion, you could say all of those things as you see what the title is, right? But I'm going to show you something. What I don't know, the people that have been watching or that have been getting their news or information from mainstream media, their job is to get you to click onto what they're saying, right? I think if you're interesting enough and you can explain it well enough and just dealing with the facts, no matter what happens to Diddy, whether he gets found guilty, whether he gets found innocent, really doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? It won't change my life one way or the other. You know, it truly, honestly won't. But there's a thing, in today's society where, the lie is deemed to be the truth, and the truth is deemed to be weird or unpopular, if you will, right? From a lot of people's standpoint, if you will. And so when you understand that for what that is, then you get into the facts. The fact of the matter is, for the people who've been down with me and we've been covering this trial, gavel to gavel, that I've been here, a lot of the other stuff, the agents had testifying to, the weapons, once again, that was something that was sold in the media to us, that basically that Diddy had this illegal arsenal of weapons. When they first began to talk about it and they did their press conference, you got to understand what happened. I mean, it's amazing. I know what it is. I've been through it before, and I understand what it is. But so during the testimony, or should I say from the beginning, they obtained a search warrant that has to be signed by a judge. They obtained a search warrant using information from Diddy's ex-girlfriend Gina, right? If you notice, Gina didn't come to trial. Gina's evidence was never corroborated by anything other than what she said. And like I said, once again, grand jury proceedings are usually private. So when you understand that, we would never really truly honestly be privy to this, but this is what the defense had made an argument about in regards to when the juror was released. Juror number 6 was released. The black man was released from the jury, right? Alexandra Shapiro made an argument in I think it was 40 or 50 page brief, if you will, or motion, explaining to the judge that that they wanted to have a certain kind of hearing. It's called a frank hearing, right? And in that hearing, basically, you want to be able to get down to the nuts or the nooks and crannies of what it is that's being alleged in the lawsuit, and making sure that all of the information contained in the warrant is valid. Notice, Gina was one of the people that were used in the grand jury testimony, if you will, to obtain the warrant. But notice that Gina didn't testify in court, and she won't testify in court, right? So what they were arguing was that the fact that they obtained that information, it was under false pretense. So they're basically saying that the warrant was obtained under false pretenses because Gina may have testified or may have given some kind of affidavit or whatever in order for them to obtain the warrant, as if she was going to be one of the people who were going to be testifying in this criminal matter, when in fact she did not testify. And we see that by the timeline that they're saying that they're going to be ending this testimony, or should I say the prosecution will be ending their part of the case by perhaps Monday or Tuesday, if you will, right? And so that's problem number one when you think about the facts, just the facts and how they presented the case. And so with that being said, you had Cassie, you had the young lady by the name of Mia, and you had Jane, right? Well, we know what Cassie's testimony was. Basically, she was the one that revealed the freak offs to the world. In fact, most people were talking about the freak offs as being this 20 or 30, 40 people in a room and all of this, that, and the other. But let me tell you what really made this go the way that it went. And what made it go the way that it went was the lawsuit by Little Rod. Little Rod, and Little Rod's lawsuit, he had a paragraph in that lawsuit that basically stated what he alleged that Diddy told him. And what he alleged that Diddy told him was that Diddy had tapes of high power politicians, celebrities, ball players, music industry executives, and so on and so forth, that he could use at any time to blackmail these people. This is what Little Rod testified to in the lawsuit. I want you to understand something, ladies and gentlemen, and you got to understand this. The girl Brianna Bungling, whatever her last name is, that was Cassie's friend. She was like Cassie's get high buddy, right? She also had Tyrone Black's happen the way that they happened, right? So when you understand this, you're gonna get it. You're gonna see where I'm coming from. So Brianna, in Brianna's testimony, she said she had Tyrone Blackburn as an attorney, and she admitted that Tyrone Blackburn would include information in demand letters that wasn't true, like how Diddy allegedly sexually assaulted her, right? And the defense basically, got her to admit that Tyrone Blackburn was including things in demand letters that weren't true. You understand what I'm saying? So now I take you back. Now, this is under oath in a federal racketeering, if you will, the lawsuit against Diddy, under oath, in which she had immunity. So you got to understand, the girl Brianna had immunity, and they basically caught her in the lie, right? They testified that something happened in September 26th. Diddy wasn't even in L.A. On September 26th, they brung that back, tried to go for a mistrial. The judge denied it. Okay. Well, she couldn't remember she was on drugs and none of that. Well, somebody's life is on the line also. And I don't think that her being on drugs is an excuse if the prosecution is basically going to introduce this evidence and make it so that it says that it happened from the metadata on a certain date. Right? Okay. So now you understand that. So they also called Cassie out because Cassie basically said that she witnessed it. And it came out later through a text message between Christina Karam and Cassie that Cassie didn't witness it. It was basically secondhand information that she had obtained later, when in fact in court she testified that she witnessed it, right? Okay, so those were inconsistencies in the testimony. But the Breonna thing with the Tyrone Blackburn situation, you got to understand. If he was, not only, he did it in Little Rod's lawsuit too, let's be clear. But if what Breonna was saying was true, then Tyrone Blackburn was actually including information, right? Including information in a lawsuit, right? That wasn't true. Or potential lawsuit, should I say, that wasn't true. And demand letters and how Diddy allegedly sexually assaulted Breonna. We know now, listen to me, because you got to, now that we know what Diddy's thing is, right? Diddy's thing is more of a cuck thing, like, you know, he liked to watch his girl or whatever be hit by another dude. That's his turn or whatever. That's his thing. We know that now beyond any shadow of a doubt. So any drugging, you know, like Little Rod claimed in his lawsuit, any kind of drugging, any kind of somebody being unconscious or anything like that, that's not going to do it for Diddy, right? Diddy needs you fully aware, having energy, participating in, you know what I mean? That's going to get him excited. We can all say that have been following along with this, that this is in fact a truthful thing. We didn't know this at first, but we know it now. Just like everybody was thinking that, you know, it was 20 or 30 people in the room. That's not true, right? This is how the media had been running with this based on Little Rod's testimony about these sports players, politicians, and all of these other people in that one paragraph in his lawsuit that he alleged that Diddy told him. That raised a lot of eyebrows. That raised a lot of people's consciousness. That's like, oh. So here comes the investigation. So now, in this investigation, here comes the grand jury, right? They use Gina's testimony. They use Cassie's testimony. They use all of these other people's testimony, a lot of them in which they didn't even call to come to testify. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're going to use somebody's testimony in a grand jury, you have a right to confront your accuser. Somebody's basically saying that you did something or allege that you did something, and they're telling it to a grand jury, right? Okay, cool. So they go and they raid Diddy's, you know, his houses and all of this, that, and the other, looking for these tapes. Come to find out, they really don't find any tapes. The only information or tapes that they have are tapes from Cassie. That Cassie took, or Diddy took on Cassie's phone. It was still on Cassie's phone. She submitted them to the prosecution. This is what we were doing. This is how we were doing it. You know what I mean? Okay, now, so I can understand. Okay, they coming with the claim of sex trafficking and all of that, right? But who was being sex trafficked? Diddy was in a relationship with Cassie. Gina was in a relationship with Cassie. Daphne Joy, aka Jane, was in a relationship with Cassie. So all of these women were in a relationship and understood that in the pleasing of Diddy, this is what it was. Now, none of these people that testified claimed to be or were acknowledged as sex workers, right? They were male strippers, dancers, whatever you want to call them, right? But the prosecution chose to call them sex workers. Okay, they may have been getting paid for it. They testified that Cassie was doing some of the paying. They're basically trying to tie in now that some of these flights and things and so on and so forth were paid with Diddy's money, right? Right. Once again, they don't have any kind of evidence, or from what I understand as of yet, from Diddy, basically saying, okay, yeah, he paid this person for sex or whatever it is that was paid for, right? This is all being alleged by the prosecution. They have the burden of proof. But now, you lead into the coercion aspect of what this is. And I want to show you something. Because You know, the sad part about this is it's like, even though we're looking in real time, right? You know, if we're looking at it in real time, then we're looking at this. Check this out. I want you to understand something, because they don't want you to see what it is that really is what it's supposed to be. Check this out. I need you to check this out. Look at this. This is what Jane did. Jane did this. And once again, they said Diddy was using the rent money, the $10,000, and all of these other things in the media, people getting half-ass information and then coming on YouTube and various other outlets and just running with it, right? Or he paid her $10,000 for a freak off and blase, blah, 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 right? Which the first time they were together, right, it wasn't true, right? Listen. So now he gave her money because she had stayed like 5 or 6 days, like, yo, you know, you got your hustle, whatever, you know, you stayed out here with me, here you go, so on and so forth. He didn't give it to her before, he gave it to her afterwards when she was about to leave. So that was false, right? But check this out. They said, well, you know, she tried to allude to that Diddy used the rent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear, let's be honest. If somebody paying your rent, that's what they doing for you if you allow them to, right? Once again, none of us are beyond reproach. Listen, I want to be honest with you. You got to understand, if somebody paying your rent, that's what they doing for you, whatever. You can say no at any time. But she didn't. She loved the lifestyle, right? So much so, this is what she did. Look. Daphne Joy, a.k.a. Jane. She then admitted to pulling the hotel nights card. Ladies and gentlemen, this is somebody who was with the business. This is somebody who was conscious of what they were doing, right? She then admitted to pulling the hotel nights card, telling him he wouldn't get to do as he pleased with her if he decided to stay with Young Miami on vacation. This is somebody who's conscious of their power. This is a very powerful woman. This is somebody who understands what their man likes, understands what they're doing, what they're in it for, right? Listen, her plot, listen, not her plot. Being coerced, there's not a plot. It's like, I'm dangling this. If you don't do this, you're not gonna get this. Diddy never told her that. If you don't do what I want you to do, I ain't paying your rent no more. Nowhere in the testimony did it ever say that. Though they tried to allude to that's what was being said, it never was said. But this, in fact, right here was said. Her plot seemingly worked on the rapper, as she testified that he left his vacation earlier. Afterwards, she set up a Valentine's Day with 2 different escorts, right? At the same time as a treat for him. Right? Like I said, you got a lot of people out here who are just taking information. They don't know what it is. They're listening. This is testimony that was in court. For the people who've been riding with me and we've been doing this during the week, you know, during the 5 days, during the weekday, right? This is what Daphne Joy, a.k.a. Jane, told Diddy. If you don't bring your ass back off that island with her, I'm not going to give you what you want. That's what you call coercion. Ladies and gentlemen, that is coercion. So if anybody was coerced in this situation, it was Diddy in regards to Daphne Joy, a.k.a. Jane. I need you to think about that for a minute. The situation involving the violence with Jane and Daphne Joy, a.k.a. Jane, the situation was started by her, should I say, or initiated, should I say, initiated by Jane. She says she slammed his head up against the marble table. Then she started throwing candles. That's when Diddy started fighting back, right? All of this came out, like I said, once again, it's going to get overlooked because it does not fit the mainstream narrative and these are facts. This is not what I'm saying. This is what took place in court, right? So when you understand what coercion really, really is, it was Diddy that was being coerced, right? Now, you can take it or leave it. It's up to you. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. This is a fact. Now, you go back with the Cassie situation. So now, understandably so, Capricorn Clark was helping Cassie, as well as Mia was helping Cassie cheat on Diddy with Kid Cudi. Right? This is a fact. Hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the share button, please. Appreciate you. So now, Diddy is mad about this once he finds out. Right? He finds out, so he's mad. The situation involving that, we heard Cassie, she's cheating with Kid Cudi. Diddy introduced Cassie to Kid Cudi. Right? And she's hiding it so much so, she's being so slick about it that she got a burner phone trying to hide it from Diddy. He finds out, right? So what does Cassie do? She was also messing with the NFL player. There was no coercion involved. Everybody was involved of their own free will because the benefits outweigh the risk. The benefits outweigh the risk. Right? It's just as simple as that. So now, the NFL player, Kid Cudi, they brought Michael B. Jordan name in there. And not only that, but then you go into the fact of who Cassie ultimately ended up with, which was Diddy's trainer. Right? So, I mean, I know people seen that. We seen the Intercontinental tape. We seen that. We understand that. That shit was appalling. Yeah. For the politically correct reasons and things and ways of seeing things. Yeah. All of that was what that was supposed to be. When it came down time to tell the police, to contact the police, Cassie Ventura did not volunteer to do so. Why? Because the benefits outweighed the risk. He was taking care of her. He was paying her rent, her car, her credit cards, her phone, her everything. Daphne Joy, a.k.a. Jane, her rent, her car, her phone, her credit cards, her everything. Right? These were relationships. Gina testified or did interviews in which she said that Diddy was giving her money and taking care of her too. As we speak right now, Diddy is still paying for Jane, a.k.a. Daphne Joy's rent. Right? So even though he's locked up in MDC, she came into court testifying against him at trial. They gave her immunity. Basically, I'm thinking that they gave everybody immunity, if you will. They didn't say anything about Cassie, but understanding what it is. Some people are made to be made to be held accountable for their actions, but other people aren't. That's the thing I got a problem with. We're going to put this person up as a victim. No, they were a willing participant. You see it right here. Afterwards, she set up a Valentine's date with 2 different escorts at the same time as a treat for Diddy. That she wasn't coerced. She did that. And not only that, she threatened him and said, nigga, if you don't get your motherfucking ass back here, you know what I mean? If you don't get back here, then you ain't going to be able to have your way and do what you want with me like I let you do. Right? This is what was actually going on, ladies and gentlemen. This is what was going on. All of what, like I say, all of what is being put before us and tried to make it appear as if, you know, it was this thing and these carrots were being dangled. You see who was dangling the carrots. She then admitted to pulling the hotel night's card. She had a card. You know how they say when somebody pull a race card? They've been saying that about black people for years, right? They say, you know, oh, well, he's trying to play the race card. Well, Jane, a.k.a. Daphne Joy, wasn't trying to play the race card or the hotel nights or the freak off card. She admitted to playing the card. You understand what I'm saying? See, it's a difference. They say one thing and say it's good to be thought of fool, but then it's different to open your mouth and relieve all doubt. ladies and gentlemen, you have it right here. Diddy was being coerced because her sweetness was his weakness, right? Think about it for a minute. She was willing to do what he wanted her to do. She accepted all of the perks that came with that. You know what I mean? And so much so. Remember, she was on the phone with him and was mad about Diddy having the other girlfriends and letting the other girlfriends travel with him. And she said, I quote, she said, well, maybe I need to fuck a little bit more, right, to be able to go and travel with you. She said that. She said that. And so it was when she didn't get her way, she would use what she understood that he liked or was his weakness or the thing that she was doing in his life for him, being his girlfriend or his lover, right? She would use that to her advantage. You can't run from this. These are facts. So you can pull up, they calling Christina Karam. They calling Christina Karam a co-conspirator, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to understand something. If Christina Karam was a co-conspirator, why didn't they lock her up? You know why they didn't lock Christina up? Because Christina would come into the goddamn courtroom and testify that everything that I did was a part of my job. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, Jane, a.k.a. Daphne Joy, Cassie, right? Well, Gina didn't testify, like I said, but she was used in the listening. You got to understand, both of them always said that they sought to do what? To keep what they were doing a secret and away from the other staff members. The people in the chat know that. The people in the chat know that. No, it was a mutual using, Scorpio Girl 07. Yeah, it was a mutual using. Yeah, she used the cat as leverage, but it was a mutual using. If we want to call it that, it was a mutual using. He used her and she used him, right? And there was other testimony that was so egregious. Like they were like, well, you wanted to do what he wanted you to. She said, well, I just wanted to act like he wanted me to act and do what because she knew the benefits. This young lady, Daphne Joy, a.k.a. Jane, was living a lifestyle that very few people live, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to understand that. I don't really think people understand. To meet a guy like Diddy or a guy who has that kind of a financial access and power is a very, very rare thing. You probably would have to go to Morocco or to the south of France or, be in Beverly Hills and just so happen to meet somebody, you know what I mean, Northern California, Silicon Valley, with people with that kind of money and access, right? And them take a liking to you and you take a liking to them, right? To be able to live in that cloud of rarefied air, $10,000 a month for your place. And a motherfucker don't even, that type of money don't even make them sneeze. It's nothing, right? $10,000 a month for your allowance. You not his wife, you just his woman. Right? So understandably so, I understand the attraction to the lifestyle, right? But once again, whom much is given, much is required. If you want to call that much, that was his thing. They would be together, So when we understand what it actually is versus what we want it to be or what they want it to be, these are the facts. You go back to the situation with Gina, right? Gina didn't testify in court. They used her in the grand jury, right, to get the warrant to raid Diddy's place. What did they find, ladies and gentlemen? They found a little bit of drugs. They ain't charge him for that. Little bit of drugs, ketamine, ecstasy, coke, little bit of cocaine or whatever. But all of that was for personal use. Diddy testified that he went to rehab, right? Jane even testified that she told Diddy that she thought he needed rehab. Because he was looking kind of rough. The $100 million, $200 million, that shit don't matter. Look, them drugs get a hold of you, they got a hold of you, player. It doesn't even matter. So understanding this, Diddy didn't coerce anybody. He was coerced. He was coerced. Like I said before, everything else was mutual and it was consensual. Everything else was mutual, and it was consensual, despite what people want you to believe, despite what Tisa Tells out here pushing, you know what I mean? Despite what Nancy Grace out here pushing, despite what a lot of these people out here pushing, right? The facts are the fact, and they know this. Like I said, a lot of them, especially Tisa Tells, she was sitting in the courtroom or one of those other adjacent rooms at one time, right? Basically, listening to everything, but then would come outside of the courtroom and say something contrary. Even when the juror got dismissed, they tried to make it look like it was something fishy against Diddy. No. They saying that he wasn't truthful about where he lived. That ain't got nothing to do with Diddy. So he could get on the trial, so he could vote Diddy not guilty. That's what he could have been just as, and they say, well, when they use it to say, well, yeah, they trying to get him off because he black. Well, the prosecution are looking at it the other way. They said, well, because he black, he might vote Diddy not guilty. You see what I'm saying? So they don't want you to look at it one way. They want you to look at it their way. Right? So when Diddy defense argues, that's just the prosecution trying to erase another black juror, right? And the prosecution said that's preposterous, right? But then the prosecution, without admitting it, thinking to themselves deep down inside because of their personal biases, can't be overlooked in any situation. Nobody's personal bias. I don't care if you're a lawyer or not. Nobody's personal biases can be overlooked. The prosecution, in being who they are looking at it like, yeah, well, he's black. He's most likely to vote for the black guy. You know what I mean? This is the way that they think. They never going to admit it. Right? Because it takes full honesty to be able to admit something like that. Just like it took full honesty from the juror. Okay, they say, well, he was inconsistent. He said he lived in the Bronx. Come to find out, he told somebody that he just moved to New Jersey. That would be something that a person would be removed from, right? Then they had this other juror who basically communicated. Somebody asked him in text message, are you juror number, whatever. And he communicated that he was on the jury for whatever reason, right? Okay, so we're dealing with that. But when you think about the big picture and understanding what this truly is about, this was about a lawsuit. And what happened was when Little Rod dropped his lawsuit after Cassie had settled, and everybody seen the money train, and then you seen everybody start popping out with these lawsuits. It was either Tyrone Blackburn or the lawyer in Texas, right? Dropping Jane Doe, John Doe, Jane Doe, John Doe, Jane Doe. Remember, they were talking about, the person, they were drugged. Remember, and this is the cold part about the game. The game's so cold, man. Listen to this one. Remember when they filed a lawsuit against Jay-Z and Diddy? And they was alleging that Jay-Z and Diddy did something to some little girl, a white girl, at the after the MTV Video Music Awards in New York that year. Remember, they even wrote a story in that lawsuit that says that when they went to this party that didn't happen. See, none of this happened. This was all made up in the lawsuit, right? You forced to defend some bullshit. Listen, when they made all of that up, they made up a story about how Jay-Z and Diddy and this girl, right, this girl was given a drink. This shit is sickening, man. It's so sickening that it's funny, but it's not really funny. That they gave this girl a drink, and somehow, some way, she began to feel woozy, and she didn't remember, and all of these other things. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you all of that shit was a lie. You listen to me. It's so wicked. You can't even think of something like that on your own. Think about it. Jay-Z fought hard and thorough and said, I'm not giving up a dime, not one wooden nickel. Ladies and gentlemen, see, notice how these lawsuits then soon lose the media attention. They lose the media attention, and then people kind of go back to it before you know it. There's going to be a little statement admitting that lawsuit against Jay-Z settles lawsuit against Tony Busby in defamation suit. If that's what it won't be as bold and as big letters as it was when they were pushing it from the perspective of Jay-Z and the Diddy thing being some kind of big allegation. It wasn't true. It was even dropped against Diddy, ladies and gentlemen. People, why didn't that alarm people so much? You should be like, oh shit, they ran that. And what did Jay-Z say? When they came with that lawsuit, what did he say? He said, if it's what you saying it was, file a criminal lawsuit. Don't file no civil one. That's a hella bold statement, man. That's a hella bold statement. Somebody saying, no, don't come after the money. Come after my life. Try to put me in prison for it. And there was nothing done. It was all dropped. It was all dismissed. And now everybody wants to hide behind, well, my client had a reckless thought about her fear and her safety. No, that wasn't what it was. None of it was true. And so I bring you to this. Do not be surprised at what you're hearing, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, they propped it up with the little rod, with the Tyrone Blackburn once again. I look at Little Rod's lawsuit differently based on the testimony of Mia, the girl Brianna, right? Who said that Tyrone Blackburn was putting things in demand letters of her being sexually assaulted when Diddy actually didn't sexually assault her. He was putting that in there himself and trying to garner some kind of settlement. The girl Brianna testified to that in Diddy's case. So now I go look back. I look back at Little Rod's lawsuit and this alleging about these basketball stars, politicians, music, high-level music executives, and all of this that Diddy, he said that Diddy told him he allegedly got tapes on. I don't even believe that no more. Once again, if you want somebody to pay attention to something, you got to put something salacious in there. You got to put something in there that'll get people's attention. Know how I know? Because in Little Rod's lawsuit, he put Christina Karam, he put Lucian Grange, the head of Universal Music, he put Universal Music. And when it came back, the judge basically dismissed Lucian Grange, Universal, Christina Karam, and all of those from Little Rod's lawsuit. And as a matter of fact, Tyrone Blackburn apologized to the judge and said, yeah, he was reaching a little bit, y'all. But guess what? If you ain't been paying attention, you won't know that. If you've been listening to the hyperbole and the bullshit, you wouldn't know that. Right? Just like in the courtroom, when Jane was testifying to the fact that she had went with Kanye West. Now we know who that is. It's no Kanye went up there the next day after that. They mentioned that because he knew who they was talking about. They found out Kanye, they said it was for this high power rapper's girlfriend/wife. We know who that was based on the fact that I believe her birthday is January 4th. It was supposed to be her birthday. It was in and around January 24th that they were in Vegas and this thing was going on and they were watching. And Jane introduced one of their people in the freak off situation to Kanye West now. Diddy got mad about that. But the most important part about that is, it wasn't even that part that she had went and she had did that, right? The fact of the matter is, it was, oh, wow. She admitted that allegedly that Kanye was trying to holler at her. Was like, yeah, I wanted you to, and blase, blase. And all of this comes up in court. Like, oh, wow. She's not only doing that, S.K. Simmons, thank you, I appreciate that, right? She's not only doing that, but she's also making referrals. She's referring freak off people to people. You know what I mean? What S.K. Simmons say, not to change the subject, but have you already played and leaked the Eat Lotto? Well, no, you don't even have to play the leak audio of her making violent threats. They don't care about that, S.K. Simmons. They don't even care about that. They played that in court. Like I said, we've been covering this gavel to gavel, man. We was right there when they first played it. They played in court, talking about, yeah, I'll kill your ass, and telling the dude, And ultimately the dude did have a sex tape that Diddy did buy from him from that perspective, right? So he did have a copy or some kind of sex tape that, yeah, Diddy ended up paying the guy for it, right? Once again, they're not really worried about that. But what I'm talking about is when Kanye West came to court the next day, understandably so, that Kanye West better be careful because they're trying to build a case against him at this very moment. Oh, absolutely. He knows it because in his civil case, they've been using the word trafficked, the person who was being trafficked. Once again, flying somebody from out of town in town to allegedly have sex. They're setting up a dangerous precedent, ladies and gentlemen, right? Now you can't even meet somebody and y'all cool or whatever. You got to be careful. They're trying to weaponize this, man. They're trying to weaponize it, right? Shit, Diddy it was his girlfriend. You know what I mean? But like I said, with the Jane situation, you got to understand. Here it is. Then, and not only that, but when she said she was at the party watching this freak off thing go on, she said other people who were into other people who were what? Who were into the lifestyle. So it wasn't any kind of crime. It was a lifestyle that people participated in. They asked her, well, how many people was in the room at this Vegas freak off where this guy, Anton, was actually having sex with this girl? And she said about 7 people were in there, right? Watching. You understand what I'm saying? So you got to understand that before you understand anything else. And like I said, the Little Rod lawsuit is what perked up the federal government's ears. When he filed that lawsuit, which came out to be a nothing. So I don't believe that Breonna said what she said that and she fired Tyrone Blackburn. He was her lawyer at first. She said she fired him because he kept on putting stuff in demand letters that wasn't true, right? So now Tyrone Blackburn represents Little Rod. And now I look at Little Rod's lawsuit totally different now. Is any of what's being said in his lawsuit true? You know what I mean? Because as an attorney, you only really get 1 or 2 chances to either make a mistake or before they call you an outright liar. Lucian Grange got dropped from Little Rod's lawsuit. Christina Karam got dropped from Little Rod's lawsuit. Universal got dropped from the lawsuit. So how much merit did the lawsuit really have? Fact Check TV, QP, Aura, Universal Ass, SK Simmons, Rodney, Scorpio Girl 07. Yeah, like I said once again, when we talk about the big picture, about what's going on, no, it doesn't have to do with any kind of people. A Scorpio, a Girl 07. No, it's not that. Once again, people are participating in activity where it normally is cool, everybody's cool, and so on and so forth. But now they're pulling people to the side saying, hey, yo, this is what you're doing and this is illegal and blase, blase, blah. If you cop to it or you get scared, then they got you. I'm going to give you a full example. Christina Karam. They're saying Christina Karam, Diddy's personal assistant, is a co-defendant, right? Now, notice all of these other people that are testifying, I mean, you would name them as co-defendants or co-conspirators or whatever. Why didn't they lock up Christina Karam? She's supposed to be testifying or being locked up. You know why they didn't lock her up? Because they probably went to her and they were like, yeah, they took her phone. I think they took her phone. They took her phone looking for text messages. Everything that she testified to or everything that they brought out in Christina Karam's phone is based on things that she was doing in regards to her job. Whether the assistant was getting drugs. Okay, cool. The assistant was getting drugs. They wasn't getting drugs for them to set up shop. You know what I mean? Or distribute drugs throughout the United States. It was personal use. It was personal use. So to be able to sit up there and say or try to conjure up this story about how, you know, Diddy using ketamine and all these other drugs is somehow, people get high every day. Drugs killed Prince. Drugs killed Michael Jackson. Drugs helped kill Whitney Houston. Drugs killed Elvis Presley. How many other celebrities that you know have OD'd on heroin or fentanyl? Heath Ledger. Who else? I forgot the other guy's name. It's so many, right? But like I said, and rather than looking at the real problem of what's going on, they choose to look at Diddy, like I said, and Diddy ain't no saint from a lot of things that he's done to people and so on and so forth. But you must weigh each and every situation in its own category, right? Like I'm sure Mace has his grievance or had his grievance with Diddy, and the people who actually done business with him, you know what I mean, who felt like he treated them unfairly or whatever have you, right? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a racketeering and corrupt organizations case where they're saying basically, yo, if you like this girl and you fly her in and whatever y'all do, whatever, then you flew her in and you sex trafficked her. That's dangerous, man. That's dangerous. And for the people who not really paying attention to it and they thinking, oh yeah, Diddy he this, Diddy he that. Yeah, we know he weird now. I don't think he can get away from that. Like even if he beat the case, I don't think he can get away from that. Nobody gonna look at him the same. He just not gonna be looked at as the same. Yeah, it's just never gonna be what that's supposed to be because that's just not what they're gonna be. No more. Yeah, Matthew Perry. It's a lot of people that die from drug overdose. And so you got to understand the bigger picture of what that is. And like I said, once again, notice how it all played out. The lawsuit, Cassie Civil lawsuit, Little Rise lawsuit. Diddy came out on his Instagram channel talking about, yeah, a lot of these people out here, making accusations that are simply not true. Now, that wasn't towards the freak off. That was people saying that they were sexually assaulted, ladies and gentlemen. And when you think about it, it's true. Other than Cassie made the accusation that Diddy sexually assaulted, I don't believe that either because she went right back to him, stayed with him for 2 more years. You know what I mean? Look, she stayed because it was hard for her to go victim bonding and all that. Look, everybody don't get that argument, man. If you're not gonna get that argument to everybody across the board that ever happened to, you're not gonna give it. I'm not buying into that. You can tell me whatever. No, she had the opportunity to leave, just like she had the opportunity to mess with Kid Cudi. She was conscious and knowing what she was doing, ladies and gentlemen. Just like she had the opportunity to mess with that NFL player. Just like she had the opportunity to mess with Diddy's a personal trainer and leave with him. So on one end, she can be conscious and make all of these other conscious decisions and everybody can be like, well, yeah, that's good for her. She should have did that, right? You can't have it both ways. It either has to be yay or nay. It can't be yay and nay, yay on this side because this is the side that I agree on, but then because this is the side that I don't agree on. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, once again, when we look at this statement right here, when I tell you, of somebody being coerced, right? You got to understand truly what it is. You got to understand truly what it is. And so, like I said, we're going to see tomorrow, bright and early, ladies. I think they say they're going to start court a little bit later tomorrow. But yeah, I think the guy, Brendan, is supposed to be coming on, the guy who they locked up when Diddy was about to leave the country for his daughter's birthday. They tried to make that seem like he was about to run. Once again, man, and it's a lot of people, a lot of these reporters are reporting with their own personal hate, jealousy, and bias. Right? Their own personal hate, jealousy, and bias. And you got to be leery of that, man. Like I said, you can hear the angle and what's the name. Most people be like, they try to tell me, oh, you believe, no, you a Diddy fan. I'm not a Diddy fan. Not even hardly. I'm a fan of the truth. I know how hard it is to digest, man. I know if, a lot of people want to go with what they believe is true and how they believe, right? And if it doesn't coincide with their beliefs, then they really don't want to hear it. I get it. I understand. But when you sitting down and you in front of a microphone, you can't feel that way. If Diddy goes to jail, he goes to jail. If he gets free, he gets free. It has no bearing on my life and how I'm going to live my life. But as we look at it, and as what they tell us, right? If you're telling us is this, and this, and then you come and we seeing it live in our face that it ain't really what you've been telling us, right? Like Little Rod's lawsuit. When he filed his lawsuit, it was this, Diddy, and he said he got something, he felt like he was drugged, and it was they didn't find no drugs like that. They didn't find no HGH or GHB or none of that stuff. They found like ketamine, cocaine, and ecstasy and all of this other kind of stuff, right? And we know for a fact now that that's not Diddy shit. He don't need nobody to be drugged and out of their mind trying to do something to him. Remember on the internet, they dropped some kind of tape of allegedly two guys engaging in some kind of whatever interaction, and it was like, yeah, this Diddy and Meek Mill. Remember they dropped that? They needed it to be true so bad, man, that they went and they found some audio somewhere, released it on the internet, and tried to say it was Diddy and Meek Mill. They wanted it to be true that bad. They needed it to be true that bad. That's a sickness. That's somebody wanting to convince you of something that they can really not prove. You got to be careful of that. Got to be careful of that. I remember that. I was like, what's this? Oh, this supposed to be Diddy and Meek Mill. Like what? Like what? Where did we? Oh, you know, and then they made up some whole story on how people obtain the information and all of that shit. I don't know who get off on that. I really don't. I don't get off on stuff like that. It's like, what? Y'all want some shit to be true that ain't true, that you don't really have no evidence about, but yet you gonna play it as if it's the truth? Where do they do that at? And so when people do that, you got to stay away from them. You got to stay away from them because they into some other shit that you really ain't really like your mind. My mind doesn't go there. I don't need him to be all of these things for him to be this one thing. You see what I'm saying? I don't need him to be with guys and be with all of this other stuff, you know, for him to be that. Now we know Cassie said, yeah, he like, you know, rubbing guys, semen or whatever on him. Right. That part, okay. She said that, she was there. I believe that. I don't believe she lying about that. So it's certain things of people that was there, you can take that you can take that to the bank. That wasn't the only time that it was testified to from that perspective. Okay, cool. You can take that to the bank. That's true. But like all of that other stuff and all of this, you know what I mean? That's crazy to me. But, you know, that's what people do because they want to, I best be relevant, or, you know, they want clicks and views and, you know, yeah. So, like I said, once again, we going to see basically what happens. You know what I mean? And then the lies that were told. Check it out. I'm going to give you something else. Check this out. Watch this. Look. You ready? Look at this. Remember this? So the guy, Eddie Garcia, the guy who sold Diddy the tape, right? I want to point you to paragraph 5, if you will, right? Paragraph 5. This is his actual contract, right? Basically said, 2, I represent and want that I have delivered all evidence. Let's start from 2. That I have delivered all evidence giving rise to or any way related to the surveillance video recording that is subject of this a declaration. I represent and warn that no evidence, including but not limited to photographs, video, digital files, and any other documents and electronically stored information have been shared with any third party. This is what he signed for the $100,000, y'all. Right? This is what the guy Eddie Garcia signed for $100,000. He said, further, I represent and warn that I am not aware and have never been aware of any other source of evidence and or documents related to the subject matter, right, other than what has just been provided. But here's where the lie comes in. Here's where the lie for money comes in, and you got to understand this. Listen, and they knew at the time that they were doing this, that Diddy was giving them the $100,000, that they were lying, right? I represent and warrant that there are no duplicates, backups, stored drives, including but not limited to cloud-based storage of or relating to evidence, documents, and or other electronically stored information provided. I further represent and warrant that upon turning over all evidence of documents, I have permanently deleted all emails, communication, text messages, and any other digital and or non-digital file received or logged, right? Recorded or logged, and any other documents referencing this matter. The facts giving rise to the declaration, and that none of this information is susceptible to data recovery at a later date. So that's basically what it was saying. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that they lied, right? Because CNN played the tape. You see what I'm saying? And good, bad, or indifferent, they played the tape, but they lied, right? And so this is what I'm saying, what people will do for money. What people will do for money. It's just as simple as that. It's just as simple as that. So they took the 100,000. Not only did they take the 100,000 now, so now listen, what they have to be hoping and praying for, listen, because the stipulation in that agreement was $1 million. So basically, if they did, if anything did pop up, that the tape did pop up, they testified that it was erased, it popped up, CNN played it. That means that they lied, right? So if Diddy get off, or if he don't get off, he's still consumed from jail. They violated this NDA right here. And they on the hook for $1 million. How do you fight that? And now I believe one of the guys is a police officer. So how do you fight that now? So, like I said, once again, we're going to see tomorrow where it goes. If they might be done on Monday and Tuesday, and then the defense will start to present their side of the story, if you will, on Diddy's behalf from that perspective. Best believe, you can almost kind of see what Diddy and them's going to, everything that was done under work product, right? All of those situations and things were done under a personal nature. Everything was consensual. Nobody was coerced, right? And whether they may call some of those witnesses back again, right? Who knows? You wouldn't think so, but sometimes they do, if you will, right? But like I said, more importantly, we're going to see where it goes from here. But like I said, once again, Jane wasn't coerced. Diddy was. You see it right here. Look, she said she played the card. We've known about being blamed as African Americans for playing the race card. Jane, she then admitted to pulling the hotel nights card, telling him he wouldn't get to do as he pleased with her if he decided to stay with Young Miami on vacation. This was somebody who was extremely jealous, extremely vindictive, and was willing to do and play whatever angle she could play to get Sean P. Diddy Combs to do what she wanted him to do. And she knew that she had power in that situation. If she didn't know she had power, she wouldn't have admitted to playing the power card involving her relationship with Sean P. Diddy Combs. It's just as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. It's cut and dry. You don't have to, you know what I mean? This is testimony from court. Her plots, listen, not her suggestion, her plot. Her plot seemingly worked on the rapper as she testified that he left his vacation early. Afterward, she set up a Valentine's Day date with 2 different escorts at the same time as a treat for him. Not by his suggestion, not by his coercion, not by his threat, because she was trying to win him over because there was other bitches in competition for his attention and she wanted it all. And she testified to that. I wanted him to be mine. And he told her from day one. What did he tell her? I'm polyamorous. I date other women, She was cool with that until she caught feelings. And then she tried to change the game in the ninth inning. It's that simple. It's that simple. So when we understand what it is, we're going to see where this goes from here, ladies and gentlemen. But like I said, we must look at the facts, not what people are telling us. Oh, it's just your drama. Oh, Diddy was shaking his head in court. He shook his head too much, Your Honor. He's trying to influence the jury. What? If Diddy was broke and the broke dude was in there shaking his head, they wouldn't say none of that shit. Well, what you mean? Him shaking his head, well, he ain't got no money to give him. What he shaking his head? What does that mean? That he's doing it means something different, right? Or he's alleged to be doing it means something different. Then here comes the situation about the jury. And then they went after that head shaking, thinking that Mr. Combs is shaking his head again. So we're going to see where it goes, man. You can see how this thing works out. Only God knows, and the 12 people sitting on that jury, where it's going to go. Like I said, once again, we're going to see where it goes. It seems like I said, so far the breaks have been given to the prosecution on most of the things that they wanted. But hey, they got the burden of proof. And like I said, once again, we're going to see if this other juror, they talking about another juror possibly being dismissed also. Like I said, I won't call it racism. I won't call it that he was dismissed because he was black. If the facts prove that he didn't tell them or told them one thing during the jury selection process, he told them one thing then and he told them, said something different, then he should be removed. I'm not going to blame him that he's black. You know what I mean? Like I said, what people's true motives are, they know in their heart. You know what I mean? And know that the game ain't fair. They ain't never played fair. They ain't never going to play fair. Because playing fair means 9 times out of 10, they might lose. So, yeah. Like I said, once again, ladies and gentlemen, what we talking about? Yeah, like I said, Scorpio, Girl 07, in a lot of the ways that they think. That's how they think. You know why they think like that? Because that's what they do. Throughout history, you've seen when a lot of times, African Americans were being tried, it was mostly in front of a white jury. That's how they think. You see what I'm saying? So they immediately think that you think how they do. And they superimpose their thoughts and their thought processes on you. Because that's how they think, right? So if you understand what that means, then you get it. So a lot of times that's just in regular life. People to do a certain thing a certain way, right? So they might think that because you go out with your buddies, that you going out, like if in the girlfriend-boyfriend situation, you go out with your buddies, y'all must be going out cheating and hollering at chicks. Because when your girl go out, that's what guys come up to them and do and holler. And they might talk, entertain, or whatever, get drinks and all of that shit. So they think that you out doing the same thing. When that's the furthest thing from the truth. But because they engage in that kind of activity, right? They think that you're doing the same thing that they're doing. And you're not actually doing that. Right? Human nature. That's why I say, no matter whether you a judge, police, lawyer, whatever, doctor, fireman, everybody has their own personal biases. And you can't escape that. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, everybody does not, because that's the shit. That's just like looking at Diddy now. You could look at Diddy. Like, we thinking, or a lot of us are thinking, not all of us, because I don't speak for everybody. Let's be clear. A lot of us thinking like, damn, Diddy, he got this money. He got all this money. I know he got all these girls and da-da-da-da-da, right? We thinking, yeah, he a player. He Diddy, da-da-da. We seeing him ride out the big money, the big houses and all that shit. When we come to find out, really, truthfully, honestly, that Diddy's a cuck. A C-U-C-K. And that he can't really get off, or he don't really get off unless he see his woman being with another man. Right? That would be the last thing that we would have thought about Diddy just by looking at it and not really knowing what was going on in real life. That's just simply stating the truth based on the testimony that we've heard from the people that have been intimately involved with this guy. It's just that simple, right? But so now, Diddy and him thinking, listen, check it out, I'm gonna give you some game. Look, and Diddy and him thinking, right? He was extremely insecure, right? Because the first thing he thinking, he mad, and when he go out, he do his thing, right? But when he found out that Daphne Joy was with Kanye and they went to a freak off, he was mad. Why? Because he thinking that she gonna participate in a freak off like she participate in a freak off with him. When she was there under the guise of somebody else's whatever, or basically introducing, who we come to really understand from what everybody was saying is Kanye, to a situation where, oh yeah, here go Anton, this is a guy that, me and Diddy use. Or whatever. It's simple. It's simple, ladies and gentlemen. So like I said, once again, I appreciate your time, man. And we're going to be at it tomorrow to basically see where this shit goes. You know what I mean? Like I said, we ain't on nobody's side. Win, lose, or draw, guilty or innocent, it doesn't change none of our lives. Like I said, we just having dialogue about the situation, and just looking at what really goes on when we think about the big picture. Like I said, Yaya Kids in the building, Tanya V in the building. Who else? Mark Jag, Ravens fan 22, Americans Tradesman. Yeah, like what American Tradesman say, Diddy has been operating from a simp position while tricking. We all knew he was a weirdo when he first came onto the scene, but we let the slide because of the fame. Right, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like I said, once again, the player image, the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? The money. And then come to find out, a lot of these guys. You gotta understand, man. A lot of these guys, and not all of them, but a lot of these guys, when they came across money, they came across a new quality of woman. These women that are extremely beautiful, you know what I mean? Who basically market themselves to rich men or men with means. You don't have to be rich, but men with means, right? But then after a while, once I guess, any woman, you say when you get to know her, like I said, if she's not interesting overall as a woman, it doesn't really matter like how pretty she is. She can't hold a conversation. She can't cook. She can't do none of those other things. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. She's easily replaceable. Just like Diddy then went on with Young Miami. He was with Gina. He was with Jane. He was with, the other girl. I forgot, Jessica or whatever her name was, right? He was with all of these women. And so it really didn't matter. Like I said, but all of them were there for one reason. Not because they loved him. It was based on what he could provide. He could provide a lifestyle that very few women have ever lived before. Car, house, apartment, condo, monthly stipend, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's hard to say no to that type of lifestyle, and all of the things that came with it. So as much as people thought that, that was it was a lot of shit that came with it. Him, his shit, the drugs, the insecurity, the ass whippings, all of that other, you know what I mean? All of the other things that came with him being him. But like I said, me personally, I haven't seen any RICO as of yet. I'm just still waiting. Like I said, once again, I just showed you for the longest period of time that Diddy was coerced more than he coerced anybody, right? You know what I mean? Their sweetness was his weakness. And him, I don't think he thought that he might have been adequate enough. You know what I mean? From that perspective, like I said. And then the drugs and all of that, like, the drugs messing with his libido, trying to, maintain, and get it up and needing all of this more to try to get it up and all of that. Then the drugs, counteracting that, the alcohol, you know what I mean? One needs to be that, there's a chemical thing that's going on too, just as well as there's a physical thing, as well as there's a mental thing, right? And so you got to understand that all of those things tied into what that was. And here comes the angst of, I want you to be with this guy, oh, she could be with two guys. Oh, it's three guys. And it's, Yeah, tomorrow night too. You know what I mean? And it's like it just becomes this never-ending spiral, and the shit just spiral out of control. And but like I said, still don't think that that's involving any kind of RICO case. You know what I mean? And that's just me. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank you, Carla Shepard. Let me see. Yeah, like I said, and more importantly, like I said, you guys, if you have not, ladies and gentlemen, check this out. Like I said, yo, it's on Amazon.
They said Tupac was untouchable, but behind the walls of Rikers Island, he was just a man, wounded, watching his back, and wondering who he could trust. He survived bullets, betrayal, and isolation behind bars. But what happened inside those walls has never been told until now. In the darkest corner of Rikers, he found betrayal and a brotherhood no one saw coming. These dudes smiled in my face, then flipped and tried to kill me, and I never saw it coming. They were Puff's security, Biggie's muscle, Henchman's people, and Tupac knew exactly who sent them. This is the side of Tupac Shakur the world never got to see, told by the man who lived it with him, not in the studio, but in a 6x9 cell. The rap battles, sex and drama with female guards, the tears, the silence after Jada Pinkett's visit, and the moment Tupac almost broke. Before Death Row, before All Eyes on Me, before Machiavelli, there was Rikers. Behind the Walls with Tupac Shakur, available now on Amazon. Get your copy. Learn the truth.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to be broadcasting live tomorrow, and we're going to see where this case takes us. Your boy DELRAY, thank each and every one of you for coming in. Queen for Life, Ravens Fan 22, Scorpio Girl 07, American Tradesman, Classy, back, Mark Jag, Miss Ashley Matthews, always a pleasure. Who else is that? Truth Over Emotions, Gwen James, Yaya's Kids, what's good? Tanya V, and everybody outside of the chat that's been watching. Like I said, you all appreciate it, very much so. And like I said, your boy DELRAY, straight gang.
Life is like some cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.